Happy with that, or do you want to take two?
No, it works for me.
Okay. Then we'll bounce forward to here. And so I have a quick little intro, and then we'll just jump into questions from there.
That
Knock this
sounds
one, knock this one out,
great.
and then we'll jump on to Gone in a Flash after that.
Cool.
Hello, I'm Kurt Lidke, Executive Director of Klamath Film, and you just watched an incredible comic book style animated music video by the band Jack the Radio for the song Creatures. With us is the film's director, Justin Zimmerman. Justin, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, fantastic to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, welcome back to the Klamath Independent Film Festival. Last year, you had a documentary short in our festival. This year, I was anticipating that we might get a little bit more animation than usual, since it seemed like that was the one thing that people could work on from home while everyone is stuck. But I know that you're largely an animator by trade, in addition to doing film as well. So this maybe wasn't too far outside the bounds while everyone else was trying to learn new things to occupy their time when everyone was stuck sitting at home. But this project seems so extensive in its style. There's so many subtleties going on. Was this a product of sudden abundance of leisure time during the pandemic, or is this just how you roll when it comes to animation work?
No, no. So what's kind of cool is that I've been working in the film world for about 20 years, and I've actually been working in the comic world for about 10. And so George Hodge, who is the lead singer and songwriter of Jack the Radio, also had been working with me in the publishing world on a graphic novel that went along with their newest album, which is also called Creatures. And so I was editing this anthology with this incredible array of artists, and George asked me if I would be able to bring one of the songs to life with so much of the work that we've been working with in the graphic novel realm. So I worked with a producer I've worked with for a long time, Tori Maurer, and a VFX whiz named Matt Esteron, who I've also worked with for a good number of years now. And basically, we had a pretty truncated amount of time to concentrate on bringing the individual shots to life in a narrative way that would really make sense across the board, both as a short film and a music video. I'm pretty proud of the end result, and I think it's just a great example of what people can do in a collaborative time.
I've seen this art style a couple times before, but not in a lot of places. I know I've seen it in some video games and a couple of other spots, but I love the art style. It looks like it's torn directly out of the pages for a comic book with a 3D effect that makes it seem almost inanimate, if not for a lot of subtleties going on in the imagery that creates. Like the more times you watch this, the more you pick up on kind of subtle little things that are happening in the background, and it's really beautiful. What would you call this animation style?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of brought this to life with this small team because basically what we're doing is we're working with a variety of the world's best comic book artists, but we're picking out the strongest visual images, and then I, instead of trying to work backwards from a film, actually directed shot by shot. So we figured out these are the most visual, but I also, like I said, have 20 years of film background, so I really want every shot to feel like it has a purpose, a beginning, middle, and end, before they all get kind of grouped together in a narrative whole. And that's how we approach the process, to take the 2D work, build on it in a three-dimensional world, but also to make sure that it was visually fitting into the world of film itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a long explanation for a short question, but the idea was we were working backwards just like you would work backwards in a film, shot by shot, rather than saying, okay, I just want to see exactly what we can do. Let's just be as insane as possible. We wanted it to be an organic process, building from the art into an actual shot. And that, I think, worked really, really well for this piece. It is going to work well for pieces in the future.
The look to it. I mean, trying to take a 2D image and making it 3D is almost as old as photography itself. They used to have the old stereoscopes and then 3D films for the longest time. Fast forward today, and Facebook has that whole app where you can take your 2D photos and create like a faux 3D effect on them and whatnot. So there's still interest in this, but what those don't have that yours does is layers to it. And that's where this kind of stands out, because I mean, we've also seen stuff like, the Ken Burns effect. I mean, the guy's built an entire film career off of basically slow zooms on
Yep.
still photographs. And this has that same kind of feel a little bit, but it's also taking it into a three-dimensional plane with all these different layers and like wind or little snowflakes or something that are giving it more of a feel than that standard 3D vibe, which I really appreciate. I'm not sure if there's a question there. I just say I love the look of this. I could watch this with the sound off and still get a lot out of it. And that's not
I think that's
anything to say against the band. That's just, it looks cool.
no, I think that's the idea. Is you want to make sure that the eye is always interested in what's going on, but you don't want to detract from the whole. So what we did is, I think there is a question there. What we did is we looked at every shot, not only in terms of how the camera was going to move, but also in terms of a foreground, midground, and background. And I think a lot of times in animation, you're not seeing that kind of understanding of depth of field and depth of perception. Even in your cool shot that you've set up here, you have a foreground, a midground, and a background. I think that that's really helpful when it comes to the language of cinema, to try to make sure that you're not just, again, moving stuff around or throwing as much as you can, but you're accenting hopefully an idea within each shot. We really did try to build the short piece on that idea from the very beginning, and I really appreciate you pointing that out.
So timeline, you said it was a truncated project, but how long did this take to create?
I can't remember now, but I'll tell you, if we did it in the corporate world, it would have been a completely different idea. Again, you just had a small group of people who were really invested in making something as cool as possible and making sure that we could coincide with what the band was doing with their album release, especially as you mentioned during the time of COVID. Everything is completely screwed up, and so we just felt it was an opportunity to bring the joy of the music and the joy of the anthology to life in a different way.
So how much input did the band have in the story, or did you and your team have total freedom to create an animated film to match the song however you wanted?
We really did have total freedom. I worked with George to discuss what images I thought were going to be the best to animate and why. And then, of course, before the film was finished, I ran everything by George. We had some very minor, like we made one shot a little longer, one shot a little shorter, but it was 95% done, maybe even 99% done by the time I showed it to him. Again, I think it's just a lot of mutual respect there, and we'd already been working on the anthology side of things, so we had a good rapport. I don't think anything like this would have been possible except for the commitment of the four of us: Tori, me, George, and then of course, like I said, Matt, who really was working hand in hand with me on each one of those shots and bringing them to life.
Yeah. What was the hardest part of creating this film? And have you done anything similar to this? I know that you've worked in comic books, you've worked in film, you've worked in animation, so it's kind of a conglomerate of all of your various backgrounds. But what was this something new as far as trying to combine all three creative outlets? And what was the hardest part of doing it?
I didn't just have a blast with this kind of thing, especially when you're working with great collaborators. To me, I think the hardest part was just simply making sure that we were living up to. I mean, if you love music and you love art, then the one thing you want to make sure is that you're giving everything its due. And so the idea of a short animated piece that's representing both the worlds, that's your sole responsibility. So it was just making sure that it was as good as it could be in the amount of time we had. It was our first long form animated project like this. It was by far the most complicated thing that we'd done, and we just were so jazzed about giving it a shot that we just threw out the we picked up the challenge and we ran with it, and I'm so proud of the result.
So, with it being part of an album release, are we going to see future comic book adventures of Jack the Radio in the same style from you? Or is that
I
TBD?
No, I certainly hope so. I think we've got to see what George comes up with in North Carolina. And, I'm sure you hear this a lot, but the best way that you can see more of something you like is to support it. So look up Jack the Radio, Spotify, iTunes, LP. I mean, their vinyl work is incredible. and we'll see what happens next.
So you have been taking this film around to a couple of festivals. KIFF is not the first place that it's going to be showing. What have reactions been so far to this?
It's been great, and this is the perfect time to actually be talking about the film because I saw it on the big screen for the first time in the last 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, I was at the Portland Horror Film Festival at the Hollywood Theater, which is one of my favorite theaters in the country, and then it won Best Animation at the West Sound Film Festival. So I'm just off of 2 theatrical screenings, the first 2 times that I've been able to experience it with a crowd in a dark room on a big screen, and the reactions have been fantastic.
Isn't that it seems so weird that we can actually say that we're like spending time in theaters with people watching things on a screen again.
Yeah,
It's been so long, man.
yeah, I'm with you. I mean, but it's never been more important to support theaters and to support film festivals. So again, I really appreciate the invite.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what do you hope that people take away from watching this video outside of going, "Whoa, that looks so cool"?
I'll take that. I mean, really, I love it. I just want people to be like, this sounds amazing. This looks amazing. I really am glad I had this 3 minutes of my time where I didn't have to worry about anything else and just kind of soak up all this incredible work in one real moment of fun.
Well, thank you, Justin, for your film and for joining us. Jack the Radio Creatures will be screened on Sunday, September 19th at 11:30 a.m. in our Northern Shorts category at the Ross Ragland Theater and available all week on demand. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.